the root cause of the rape gang inquiry was this fear of being called a racist, which, again, I think was part of the plot. So racism, being a racist, was used, and it was throughout the entire sort of cultural revolution of the 60s, 70s, you know, racism, those who were propagating multiculturalism, they had to sort of spread this racist thesis. And there was no doubt that probably in the early days there was a bit of racism. I actually think Britain is the least racist place on earth now, and I hold to that. But the genesis of the rape gang was that rape gang is evil. It's just pure evil. It's been going on. It's going on for 30, 40, 50 years.
The American public is much less aware of this story than you are here. Can you explain?
Well, this is basically the mass grooming and abuse of white working class English girls by largely Pakistani Muslims, mainly from one part of Pakistan called Mirpur. And this goes to the bloc vote, it goes to the postal vote we were talking about earlier. So Labour, the Labour Party largely, but the Tories didn't do enough about it when they were in power, but the Labour Party has put power ahead of right and wrong. So you've had, and the fear of being called a racist by almost every state body has meant that they weren't prepared to look into this in the way they should have done. And that has effectively allowed this evil to propagate. And Labour continue to refuse, they refuse a national inquiry. They've now said they're having a national inquiry as a result of what we've done. We've had 20,000 people who've crowdfunded a rape gang inquiry, which we've held. We had 2-week hearings, 2 of the worst weeks of my life. We heard some absolutely horrific testimony. And a lot of this goes back to the tensions, really. A lot of it's down to Islam and the way in which Islam teaches its followers that they are superior to other religions. And as you know, if you ever, during these crusades, if you lost a battle to Saladin, you had 2 choices. You either converted to Islam or they killed you. And it's not dissimilar to that. And we go into all the reasons, and I urge everybody to read our report. It's 200 pages of, I think it's fascinating, even though my team, my wonderful team, has done it with the help of a superb barrister called Graham Smith. We held the hearings properly. We've done it with the backing of these 20,000 concerned people here. So it's a big issue here. And a lot of it has been hushed up because it's in working class communities rather than the mainstream wanting it. So these people who call me a neo-Nazi have allowed, this is a national newspaper, have allowed this evil to continue for, as I say, 30, 40, 50 years on an increasing scale. And it's been allowed because people are frightened of being called racist, to your earlier point. And not only that, you've ended up with the creation of Sharia courts. Now we have, I think, 85 Sharia courts, which is quite extraordinary.
How can you have Sharia courts?
Well, you tell me, Bret. This is a country with our laws. And as I say, I'm very happy for people to come here and integrate. These people aren't integrating. They're living their sort of almost tribal lives. They're sort of... They're like sort of probably we were 1,000 years ago, with sort of family loyalties and community loyalties, which trump every other race. So in the end, you get all sorts of dishonesty. But again, our state has not been prepared to deal with this.
But how can you have a Sharia court in Great Britain? How does that even work?
You have 85. I think it's 85. I'm right in saying 85 Sharia courts here.
What does that mean?
It is bizarre. It is like a parallel legal system.
So are these courts that are set up by communities that are operating outside of the British legal system?
They have to go. We're quite public about it. We cannot have it. If we live in this country, we all have to live under one law, and that law has to be implemented without fear or favor. And everybody should be treated the same way. But as I said to you, the judiciary has been undermined because the judges now, you see they'll send Lucy Conley to prison for whatever she got, 30 months for a social media post, which was in response to the Southport killings. which she deleted after 4 hours. They sent her to prison. And then you get sort of a Pakistani Muslim rapist who will get off with 3 years for raping girls on the basis that the judge says their culture has a different view to how you should treat white working class English girls to the way in which a white man has it. Well, I'm sorry, that doesn't work for me. We have to have one rule for everybody.
Equal protection.
You cannot have two-tier policing or two-tier legal system. It's just wrong. The backbench book guidance for magistrates has gone incredibly soft. So again, it's not all the police's fault, because the police, when they do bring these cases, very often the magistrates don't dispense justice. They let the criminals off. And this goes to our point about organized crime. I mean, why would you want to live in a society, or why indeed is there a society which rewards criminality and punishes those people who live their lives honestly, which is what's happening.
And what does that do
and if
to
you
the
express
future?
your concern about what's happening
You're
on social media, you can go to prison. And look at today. Response: ban social media for under 16s, right?
Yeah.
Well, they've just given 16, or they're proposing to give 16-year-olds the vote, right? And now they're banning social media for under 16. So the very place where all these people should be getting the information and having the online debate on free speech platforms, they're taking that away. Why? Because that means they can indoctrinate them at school. And again, I've been talking to more and more parents here, and we have this ability to home educate. So I advise as many people as possible, if you've got the qualifications, don't allow your child into this misguided education system which doesn't teach people, as you said, common sense or logic or fairness or history. It basically, it's an Orwellian sort of, almost brainwashing exercise to, and a lot of young people don't know their history. And then when they do know their history, they go, well, how was I taught that? So I think a lot of parents are now home educating their children with some justification.